Christina Taylor Greene. Giffords was holding the meeting called Congress on Your Corner in the parking lot of a Safeway store when Jared Lee Loughner drew a pistol and shot her in the head before proceeding to fire on other people. Now, I'm not going to go into this, but a great article that came out after the shooting, I'm reading from naturalnews.com. Like I said, I did a video on this 6 years ago. You can go on my YouTube channel and check out my video I did. Arizona shooting, is it random or was it an assassination attempt? Is it connected to something bigger? I have a feeling, a suspicion, that this Virginia GOP baseball shooting today attack is something more. Is something more. There's something bigger. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Was it just a disgruntled person that didn't like the Trump administration? How can you be so angry with a Trump administration, which is doing so much good for this country, and go ballistic like this? Is it just a individual case, or is it tied to something bigger? Spiritually, it's tied to something bigger. Physically, we'll see when the information starts to come out. Yeah, who was this guy? What? Who are the connections here? Because if you look back at the shooting in 2011, where Giffords was hit in the head and Judge John Roll was killed. Here's an interesting headline. Was Judge John Roll the actual target of the Giffords shooting in 2011? Now, if you studied Judge John Roll, who was murdered in 2011, and Giffords was shot in the head, and she survived. Was Judge Roll the target? And if that was the case, you got to think about today's shooting. Were they going after somebody like Rand Paul? Because Rand Paul was there. Because I'm looking at another article here put out by CourierJournal.com. Ron Paul did some interviews this morning. Senator Rand Paul, Capitol Police prevented a massacre after shooting at Virginia baseball field. He said he was there, saying that a massacre had been prevented. U.S. Senator Rand Paul, from Kentucky, praised Capitol Police after a gunman opened fire as congressmen and aides were practicing for an upcoming congressional baseball game. I think it dates back to like 1900, this baseball game matches there in Virginia. Anyways, he said, I was there. I was there. You know, was there an attack? Was this an attack to go for Rand Paul? Because if you're on my social media and you've been studying the news, Rand Paul seems to be very accurate with his assessment of news. There might be fake news from CNN and MSNBC and BBC and ABC and Foxy News. But Rand Paul comes out, like he mentioned yesterday, he said, you know, this whole Russia probe is just theater. It's just bull. I mean, you don't hear that from too many politicians because they're part of the problem. But Rand Paul is a chip off the old block from his dad, Ron Paul. And he's been given discernment, and he can cut through the crap and get to the crux. He can get to the bottom of the situation very easily. Like he said yesterday, this whole Russia probe against Trump is just a theater. Is just bull crap. Is just phony. Yeah, and he's right. So even though other people were hit, were they going after Rand Paul? Was it the hand of God protecting Rand Paul? And I'm saying God protected all of them. And I'm not saying one person is better than the other, but I don't see these other people's names coming against the New World Order like I see Rand Paul. That's what I'm saying, right? He says, I was there and I'm shaken, but I'm unharmed. Many people likely would have died this morning if not for the bravery of the Capitol Police. He was in the batting cage when the incident occurred and was not injured. Police say suspect James Hodgkinson, 66, raged against President Trump and once singled out House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, who was wounded in the attack. He was shot in the hip, now undergoing surgery, probably finished by now. Federal authorities said it was too early to determine whether the assault targeted members of Congress. Well, what I mean, Representative Ron DeSantis from Florida, Republican, raised the ominous prospect that the incident may have been politically motivated. Oh, you think so? But was it an individual that was an individual case that was motivated by hatred, or was it a bigger scenario connected to the Clintons or the Obamas or the CIA or even the FBI that's been disgruntled recently? Think about it. Say that a man who appeared to match Hodgkinson's description approached him and others in the parking lot of the Alexandria, Virginia baseball field to ask whether the practice involved Republicans or Democrats. The Democrats apparently were practicing in another field. In March of this year, he posted on Facebook crap against Trump, who described as a traitor. He said, Trump has destroyed our democracy. Trump has destroyed our democracy? Are you out of mind? He said it's time to destroy Trump and company. In a post earlier this week, the suspect highlighted a campaign calling for president's impeachment. He said Trump is guilty and should go to prison for treason. You know, you'd have to ask, probably James Comey believes the same thing. Former FBI director. What about former CIA director? John Brennan. He doesn't like Trump either. If the Pope is going to call Trump a Hitler figure, that's what the Pope did, and a non-Christian. What about other people? Are they on the same team? Well, at least they're on the same team spiritually, demonically. Yes. Like I just read here. When a spirit leaves a place, it says, I will return. There's going to be a backlash, always a counterattack. This is a counterattack against Trump, his administration, people that are actually fighting the New World Order. So is it bigger than just an individual here? Could be. I'd say I wouldn't be surprised. Then he goes, verse 26, Luke 11, and takes to him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. There's always a counterattack. After this last election, there's going to be counterattacks. And they're serious. God protected these people. That's why it's so important for us to pray every day and throughout the day. And to keep a watch and pray in these last days. Yeah. For things like this, to prevent massacres. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. Yeah. He goes and takes 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. I'm telling you. Backlash. Attack. Obama's not happy. He's just down the road there in Washington. Valerie Jarrett moves in. He's talking about coming back into power. Everybody is hailing him as a savior to return to politics. But he wants to come back. But now that Trump is in, there's a major backlash against him on television. I mean, every show is bashing Trump. I've never seen such a hatred against a president ever. Maybe at the founding of the country, of the USA, but not in the last 150 years. I've never seen a president, a U.S. president, been this attacked, this vilified for doing so much good. Only in 5 months. Trump has done more good in 5+ months than Obama did in 8 years. And Obama will never do good. Obama is the Antichrist, by the way. I found out that Obama was the Antichrist in 2008. Takes to him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there, and the last state is worse than the first. Obama's coming back into power. I believe this is a backlash spiritually, for sure. And we'll see how physically this pans out and who's connected here. Because when you look at articles on that shooting in 2011, headlines like this, was Judge John Roll the actual target? While most of the country, the article 6 years ago said, we've been focusing on the tragic shooting of Gabrielle Giffords, and she is now recovered. The murder of Judge Roll, a federal judge for the U.S. District Court for the District of Arizona, remains largely and strangely missing most of the mainstream press coverage on this event. Now, I'm not going to read the whole article, but Judge Roll was definitely coming against the Obama agenda. Oh, yeah. And he was good friends with Gifford. Now, Gabrielle Gifford and him were hand in hand coming against policies of the Antichrist Obama at the time. Now Giffords has totally been, in my estimation and opinion, gone totally on the dark side because she's probably scared of the whole system. Headline here, Judge Roll issued a preliminary ruling against the case that would permit Obama to seize citizens' assets without cause. So Judge Roll was in the middle of a ruling against Obama in 2011 when he was murdered. Oh, it says here, was Judge Roll the real target? And I'm saying, was Rand Paul the real target? Or were they all the targets to get rid of them all? Right? I don't see him attacking the Democratic field. And was this connected to other people in other situations, other intelligence arenas? Was Comey involved? Was the former FBI director involved? Was the former CIA director involved? John Brennan. He was at Bilderberg. Was Judge Roll the real target 6 years ago? Was Rand Paul the real target here? Judge Roll's unwavering commitment to the Constitution was a major roadblock for those trying to advance unconstitutional agendas. Interestingly, some reports 6 years ago that do mention him indicate that Judge Roll had not even planned to attend the rally that day of the shootings, but decided to go after allegedly receiving a call asking him to stop by and speak to the Congresswoman. He was also some people say he was also stopping there to thank Giffords for her support in fighting illegal immigration. And 6 years ago, I read reports that Judge Roll would have a number of bodyguards around him, but that day, for some reason, they were missing. Whether he was the sole target or a primary target along with Giffords, the strange events around the murder of Judge Roll deserve more attention than they are currently getting. Most media sources decided right off the bat that Giffords was the primary target and that the others murdered or injured were just secondary bystanders. But upon evidence, do they base these on assertions or assumptions? Even beyond considering the fact that federal judges typically do not attend public political events like the one Giffords held, what are the odds that one of the most constitutional federal judges, that clearly threatened the establishment powers, happened to be present at the time of the massacre? Why were local police not present at this outdoor public event featuring this controversial Democratic Congresswoman? And why has there been so little mention of Judge Roll's murders for the mainstream media? This is 6 years ago. And like I said, he had just ruled against Obama. There was a preliminary ruling against Obama. Just days before being murdered, Judge Roll had issued a preliminary ruling with the intent to rule against the case of United States of America versus, etc., heading, the subject of the case involved giving the Obama administration power to seize citizens' assets, regardless of whether or not it would be proven that they committed any sort of crime. Judge Roll had planned to declare it unconstitutional. Even though previous presidents have gained similar asset-seizing powers, the recent case would have represented a significant milestone in overriding due process by giving the federal government, or Obama, power to steal private property without legitimate cause. And regardless of whether the one doing the seizing was a Democrat or Republican, Judge Roll would have made the same ruling because to him it was a matter of constitutionality, not partisan politics. Hello, can you say Seth Rich? Wow. So, put the pieces together, my friend. What's going on here? Not going to read all of this, but